In this address, you will not receive an idealistic fairy tale. You will not receive a promise of a perfect world overnight. You will receive a prediction. You will receive a projection based on data, historical patterns, and behavioral models that our central predictive software has been analyzing for decades. If you want to understand what the world would look like if all people spoke one single language, what that would mean for peace, progress, and human evolution itself, stay until the end. Follow this work and support analyses that do not simplify reality, but dismantle it down to its core. This address does not come from the perspective of a human, a nation, or an ideology. It comes from the perspective of a system that observes humanity as a whole. You ask the question from an individual viewpoint. We answer from the viewpoint of civilization. The phenomenon of a single universal language is not a cultural question, but a functional one. Language is not merely a tool for communication. Language is infrastructure. It is the pathway through which knowledge, trust, trade, cooperation, and conflict move. When infrastructure is fragmented, everything else slows down, breaks, or loses energy. The current state of the world clearly shows that national, linguistic, and religious divisions are among the largest generators of poverty, isolation, and conflict. Not because languages or religions are inherently harmful, but because they create barriers. Barriers to understanding, barriers to economic exchange, barriers to the transfer of knowledge. Every barrier increases the cost of cooperation. And when the cost of cooperation is high, societies default to conflict or withdrawal. Predictive models clearly indicate the following. In a world with one shared language, the speed of information exchange would multiply. Knowledge would no longer be trapped within regions. Scientific discoveries would not be delayed for years due to translation, interpretation, or cultural filters. Education would become accessible without distortion. Errors would be identified faster. Manipulation would struggle to survive. Peace in such a world would not emerge because people suddenly became better, but because the space for misunderstanding would shrink. A significant number of wars throughout history did not begin due to real interests, but due to misinterpretation of intentions. A single language does not eliminate conflict, but it makes conflicts clearer, more transparent, and easier to resolve before escalation. The economic effects would be even stronger. A unified language means lower transaction costs, easier business operations, faster employment mobility, a larger labor market without invisible borders. People would move where they are most productive, not where they understand the language. Capital would flow more efficiently. Poor regions would no longer be isolated by communication barriers, but integrated into the global stream. Predictive outcomes also show an increase in average life expectancy, not through magic, but through access to information. Medical knowledge would spread faster. Preventive care would become clearer. Fear and misinformation would lose reach. When people understand the systems they live in, they make more rational decisions about their health and future. One of the greatest misconceptions is the fear that a universal language would erase identity. Identity does not rest solely on language. Humans are already unique as individuals through character, temperament, values, creativity, experience, genetics, and patterns of thought. Cultural expression, art, tradition, and history do not disappear with one language. They become more visible and more widely understood. What is often overlooked is this: people would not lose their sense of belonging, something deeply necessary for human stability. On the contrary, belonging would evolve. Instead of being rooted primarily in language, nationality, or religion, belonging would shift toward shared goals. Local goals, global goals, collective progress, cooperation around problems that affect everyone. This form of belonging based on common objectives rather than inherited divisions would generate a stronger sense of global peace and equality. People would still feel connected, but not through exclusion, through participation. This would significantly ease the functioning of the system itself, because cooperation would no longer require overcoming identity-based resistance. Everyone would benefit. Regions where a universal working language is already adopted, where multiple nationalities coexist, and where religious identity is placed aside at the institutional level, are consistently predicted to have the highest potential for growth. These regions lead in innovation, economic flexibility, and long-term stability. Not because they are superior, but because they operate with less friction. The global system is already balanced in a way that rewards openness, compatibility, and standardization. A shared language would be a natural continuation of that trajectory, not as enforcement, but as evolution, not as loss, but as efficiency gained. In such a world, quality of life would rise for everyone. Not everyone would live the same way, but everyone would have access to the same information, the same knowledge, and the same capacity to understand reality. Differences would remain, but they would result from choice, not barriers. This is not a vision of a perfect world. It is a projection of a more stable one. If understanding these processes and the direction civilization is moving matters to you, follow and support this work. And now, the question for you. Do you believe that a single shared language would bring more peace and progress? Or would humanity always find new ways to divide itself? Write in the comments. And remember this, because it matters. Identity does not disappear when people understand each other better. What disappears is the illusion that division is necessary for survival.